Closing day at Louisiana Downs. Barry, we got to give a shout out always to Joey Cleveland, who does all the music for me. That's my guy. That's one of my buddies. Anything I need done musically, I just ask him to rock it out a little bit, and he takes care of it for me. It's a fun day today because it's mandatory payouts at Louisiana Downs. It's closing day for their track today. And we're going to go through the sequence, the pick six sequence, because it's a mandatory payout. In that pick six sequence, there's also the last pick five and the last pick four. And all of those were carryovers yesterday. They're not even all jackpot styles. The pick four and pick five are regular wagers, but they were so difficult yesterday. Nobody hit them. So extra money in the pools today. There's 9,000 in the pick six. There's 7,000 in the pick four. There's an extra 4,500 in the pick five, on top of the fact that it's the mandatory payout. Everything must go. So I brought in some friends today to help me out to talk about Louisiana Downs. First up, this gal is one of the absolute stars in horse racing. She is on a meteoric rise over the last year and a half or so. She's for Horse Racing Nation. Sarah El Badoui does such a fantastic job handicapping, just interacting with folks out there. A great ambassador for horse racing, and she was kind enough to join us this morning. Sarah, how you doing?
Oh, thanks, Gino. Some very kind words coming from you. I really appreciate it. Things are great. Happy to come on and talk about these races for Louisiana Downs. And this is some tough competitive racing. You would think like, oh, okay, some lower level races for, lesser competitive horses, but these are some tough fields. So this was quite a fun challenge to tackle with you guys.
Every race that we're looking at today has a field of 10 or more. All of the pick six races are 10 plus. So big fields. My man, the sniper, you and I talk every week, at least once every week, sometimes multiple times every week, my man. I'm glad that by now, if you're not annoyed by me, I think I've made it in and I've infiltrated. And so you and I are compadres for life.
That's now. Right, man.
How you doing on this Tuesday?
Hanging in there, getting ready for this hurricane. Probably should get some rain. Wednesday and Thursday, I already closed my kids' school Wednesday and Thursday, but it looks like Saturday is going to be spectacular, funny enough.
That's great.
So we just got to make it to Saturday.
You got to really weather the storm right now and just get through the next few days. So, and I got to let you know that there's one of my neighbors comes walking by every morning with this awesome dog that they rescued. The dog showed up a couple months ago at my doorstep, and it was just before I was about to have a big recording, and I didn't know what to do because I didn't want to leave the dog out there alone. So one of my neighbors came over and said, "I'll take care of it, and we'll see if we can figure anything out." And so they were watching the dog, and they put out feelers. They went to the vet. They checked no tags, no chip or anything. So they ended up taking the dog, and they named the dog Breezy. Which is great, which always reminds me of you because they said this dog is so great, is so breezy, and that's the nickname for your daughter. So that's awesome. That's one thing I love. Breezy. Every time the dog walks by, I'm always like, oh, my man Barry. So it always makes me think of
always
you.
A reminder.
Always a reminder.
Sniper, how many storms have you survived in Florida? Like how many have you gone through?
5.
Whew. Okay. So
I mean, over the last couple of years, we haven't really had any. I'd say the last one before this one was probably 2 years ago. And it wasn't even bad. It just kind of hovered out in the Atlantic Ocean for a little while. We got some rain, but that was about it. So haven't had a really bad one.
Well, we keep our fingers crossed and positive thoughts for everyone around there. Stay safe. And if you need some help or some entertainment, we all have great content stuff out there that can keep you company through some of the lonely times there. Jake with Thrilling Picks, Jake from Thrilling Picks, I always refer to because you're like our Jake from State Farm that comes and hangs out with us in the shows all the time. Jake is a very sharp handicapper, and you were kind enough to pop in with us and share a thought or two about Louisiana Downs because I always like to pick your brain on everything. Jake, tell us a little bit about you and if you have any thoughts on today, because I know this isn't something that a track that you're looking at each and every day. So I kind of asked you if you wanted to take a look, share some thoughts with us while you have a few minutes.
Yeah, Gino, thank you for the invite. The two races I'm looking at are races 7 and 8. And first tip, Barry, you're very experienced with the storms. What I found best for me, I'm a survivor of 2 storms in Hoboken, New Jersey. was
Oh,
putting the car at the top level of a garage. That's the best thing you
I
can
got
find.
I got to build one now.
There we go.
So, yeah. So looking at race number 7, I think, you have a difficult card because you have a lot of lower level horses, and I'll leave all those complicated races to the three of you. Looking at race number 7, you have 2 chalky horses that I think, most bettors are going to gravitate towards, or actually 3, because you have the coupled entry. I think one's will probably scratch, but you have the 1, the 1A, and you have the 10, right? So those are your top 2 chalk horses. So not going to dive into those 2. Instead, I'm going to suggest take a look at the number 7 horse. It's the only 3-year-old that's running against 4 and 6-year-olds, AG's Charlotte. And the reason why this horse stands out is perhaps it's the better jockey and the better trainer for Louisiana Downs. And that's
Carlos Lozada is your leading jockey. He's been fantastic all throughout the meet. So anything that he jumps on is an upgrade.
Right. And so you have it at 10-1. That's a gift compared to what you're going to get on the 10 and the 1-1-1A at race time.
And just compare, AG Charlotte has been right there. AG Charlotte was right behind Fort Polk 2 starts back, was in front of Eve's Delight, rival to the outside. And AG Charlotte was competitive again in a stakes race last time out, was not beaten a whole heck of a lot, and didn't have the greatest of trips. That's what's fun about this card. She's a player at 10-1. You'll find a lot of these horses at around this price, especially if you're just willing to chuck out 1 or 2 of the chalks.
Right. And like you said earlier, just to underline it, you have the jockey upgrade as well. So, he hasn't ridden this horse before. So that might be the difference.
AG's Charlotte as a horse
number
to
7,
include.
race number 7.
7. Barry, you know what happens when there's a 7? I start singing 7th Heaven. I'll stop this time. I won't do it again. I'll stop. That's one of my favorites. When I see your happy faces and they're smiling back at me. Okay, Jake, you got one more. Let's go next door in the 8th race. In all these races that we're talking about, they're all pick 4, pick 5, pick 6 races, which is awesome. So the major wagers today that everyone's going to be playing, we're going to be talking about all of those races. Tell us a thought about this 8th race.
Correct. So you're going to be chasing the pick 6, right? Mandatory payout and all of that. And there's plenty of other races that are a little bit more complicated. This is the easier one, and that's why I wanted to underline it. This is probably one of the races that you can single the chalk. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the one horse to get rid of quickly. The number 9 horse, looking good so far, Karl Broberg. It has a better E1 pace. It has the right lifetime speed. It's interesting, but it also finished 20 lengths behind the winner in its past race. So looking back at the database for sprint claiming races at Louisiana, looking at horses that had finished more than 10 lengths behind the winner in its past race, no surprise, those horses have never won this type of race. So I think the number 9 horse, looking good so far, is one of those horses that a lot of bettors might be distracted by because of the trainer jockey combination, right? And you might be like, hey, let's throw it in there. And all of a sudden you're going to double the cost of your pick 6. So that's the one horse to just push aside. And then it brings you back to the only horse that should win this race, which is the number 5, Market Book. Why? Because of the speed, because of the horse's beat percent, because of the in the money win percent that this horse leads on. And I think this is the one race where you can get away with a quick, cheesy, chalky single.
Market Book. That's the thing, right? In a sequence like this, you're going to have to pick and choose the races where you take a stand and you say, this is the horse I'm going to gravitate towards. This is the shorter price that I'm going to build my ticket around. For Jake, race 8, the very live, the very logical Market Book, who makes a ton of sense in there. Jake, we have a busy day. We have a lot of ground to cover. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to handicap some Louisiana and share some thoughts with us. Tell everybody where we can follow you on social media. You do a really good job throughout the weekends and racing days of pointing out just things like you did, which why I love following you and interacting with you. You'll say, hey, here's the race. This is the favorite in this race. And yeah, sure, they can win. But you know what? I don't think their chances of winning this race are matching what their odds are. There are a couple other horses who might have a better chance than their odds. I really like the way you play it out sometimes, and you sort of map it out to try to make it easy for people who may be following you. Tell us where we can follow along.
Thank you, Gino. You can find me on Twitter at Thrill and Picks. If you have Android, you can find the Android app Thrill and Picks. You leave me 4 stars. That's fantastic. Like an Uber driver. And lastly, yeah, the key thing is I'm always trying to find that false favorite and disprove it. But in this race with race 8, I think it's a legit favorite. So
and yeah, when you're going through a sequence, right, like a pick 4, pick 5, pick 6, it's a little bit different than when you're playing individual races where you're just looking for the value of that race. When you know you're going to have to lock in to a sequence, then you're going to have to find 1 or 2 races where you just say, hey, here's my strong opinion, then I'm going to lock this one in.
Correct. Look, I'm always trying to save a better, a dollar here, a dollar there on that pick 6 sequence. That's my objective. So I hope this helps you deploy your bankroll best. Sarah, Barry, Gino, good luck with the rest of the card, and I'll be watching.
Thank you so much, Jake. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk again real soon, buddy.
See ya.
That is Jake there. He does such a great job, and he's a really great horse player, loves talking racing. And we are going to start talking about the pick 6 now. So let's jump in the DeLorean. We'll go back to the future, right? Because we're going back to race 4, but race 4 is later today. It still hasn't run. So we're going back to the future. And Sarah,
Easy
will
there,
us
Doc.
Up. I know.
Easy, Doc.
I
like
always,
that's a stretch, but okay.
I always get off on these tangents, but this is actually a really cool one. I probably mentioned this before. My dad is a general contractor. He actually built Michael J. Fox's house in Bel Air, like right when Michael J. Fox was one of the biggest stars ever. When he was filming, I think Back to the Future 2, he had already done the first one. I actually have 2 signed like Power Wheels DeLoreans that were like special editions in my garage, signed by Michael J. Fox. I used to drive around in one of them, and then the other one's in a box that we never opened and never touched, as like a special collector's item. So love me some Back to the Future, love me some Michael J. Fox, and I love me a pick 6 and a mandatory payout at Louisiana Downs. If you have not followed along with some of Sarah's work at Horse Racing Nation, at HR Nation, they do such a great job over there. It is one of the absolute bookmark places if you're a horse racing fan, if you're a gambler, a bettor. They give you all sorts of just great information, and then different handicappers and gamblers that will help give you their insights and their opinions. So Sarah, very lucky to have you today. Let's start with race number 4 and get your opinion here. In a really strong sequence, this is the one race that's just one of the lower level races. We have Louisiana bred maiden $5,000 claimer. So about the absolute bottom over at Louisiana Downs, and not an easy race to start a pick 6 sequence. Sort of looks like there are 2 horses that'll probably take the bulk of the money. The horse on the outside, the 11, was pretty impressive in the debut, ran well. And then you have the 3, Gold Chain. Those 2 are installed as the 2 shortest prices on the morning line. But it is a big field with other directions to go if you want to beat those favorites. What was your thought in this kickoff leg of the pick 6?
Yeah, I mean, I see it kind of the same way as you do. This is a really tough race to begin things. And I think it's also a place where a lot of people will be like going through each an individual horse and just finally getting to the end and be like, I don't know, I'm going to spread in this race, and then spending a lot of money on their ticket. For me, I'm not a huge pick 6 player. So if I see the first leg of a pick 6 sequence as kind of difficult, I'm more willing to take a stand if I'm wrong, run back a pick 5.
Absolutely,
and especially
right?
on a day like today where there's carryovers in all of those late multis, it's a little more enticing to be like, all right, I was wrong about one thing, but I didn't spend the house, so I can run back a ticket to still cash in on something later. So I'm actually going to single in this spot. It's going to be the number 11 Judge this trip, because there's a lot of horses that have had a lot of chances and have really done no running at all in this race. At least this one, first time out, showed a little bit of early interest, showed that this horse is probably competitive in some way. And I just felt as though this one maybe gets the right kind of setup from the far outside, can get over, save a little ground, and might just be faster than these horses, because there's another horse that the 9 Whiskey to Wine is going to take a little bit of money, but this horse has had so many chances. And once he gets past 10 and you're not winning, I'm all set. So I at least see a little bit of potential with this one. I know it's a short price and not very exciting to start things off, but if you take this horse out of the race, I think you could go so many different places that it would just be so much to spend on a ticket that it's not really worth it for me to spread that much early. So single and move on for me in here.
Of the shorter prices, this is the one I prefer. And we're watching the replay. Judge this trip was the 8. And she had a very nice start in her career debut. The problem was 4 horses to her inside all lined up on the lead. So she was 5 wide, and she actually raced really well. Even with that wide trip, she kept trying here all the way in her first start. She's a little green late, having tough time switching leads, which is what you see from horses making their career debut. And I sort of like that because there's some more built-in upside for her. The Jean-Son barn has been very good with their young horses all throughout the meet. You have Jose Guerrero, who I think from the outside, he'll make sure she's in a pretty good spot too. So yeah, of the short prices, Sarah, I totally agree with you. I like her a little bit better. I'm going to probably use at least one other in here, Sniper. I'm going to throw the 5 in. Don't Blink Twice also. And reason being is just sort of going through her pattern and some of her races. I think she could fall into a nice trip, cutting back to 5.5 furlongs here. She is the 4 in this race that we're watching right now. And she will be making the 3rd start off of basically a 1.5 year layoff. Like right now, I like her enough in this race, just with a start like that. In a low-level race like this, if she's able to just have a nice beginning like that and sit close, I think she'll have a shot in here. The winner of this race was Satisfy You. That was the horse who was in front of her, and Satisfy You went on to win that race by 8 lengths. She kind of tried to sneak up the rail a little bit here, and it was tight, and then she had to back up, and she really just couldn't come on again, but the winner crushed. I think she can take a little step forward, and she can just be sitting in a good spot. So I'm going to use 5 and 11 everywhere, Sniper. What are you thinking in this 4th race?
I'm actually kind of surprised you guys didn't give a mention to the 3 here.
There we go.
Gold
I
Chain.
figured. Okay, yeah.
I think that horse might be faster than the 11. It's close, but geez, I mean, it looks like a 2-horse race on paper between Gold Chain.
3-11 are the ones they'll take the bulk of the money.
Right, yeah. and Judge this trip. I would gather they might even be like 9-5 a piece.
Yeah, no, you're right.
at post time. Everybody else doesn't look that good. You could give kind of a shout out to the 5 that you mentioned.
And look, this is the same sort of trip that the other horse that we were watching got. Judge that, the outside, the 11, because Gold Chain is the 7 in here. And she had a good start, but she ends up being pushed wide because all the horses to her inside are going. And that's just a really tough trip when you're that wide. But Lozada keeps the faith. He stays here for her 3rd start, and she would be the next one. It's 11-3 as the 2 that everyone will play. And I think you kind of take a stand if you like 1 or 2 of the other ones. For me, 5 would be the other value to throw in.
Right. And I mean, if you're going to go 3 deep in this race, which doesn't seem like it's a good idea.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Unless you want a single like market book later or something like that, you might be able to get away with it. But it seems like a 2-horse race here between Gold Chain and the 11.
And if anyone likes to get real crazy and throw some bombs in, I had a tough time in this race finding horses. But if you're looking for maybe under horses, Bonus Round is just lightly raced, got some action in the debut, adds the blinks for a barn that's capable with the younger horses. And then the other one would have been the 10 at least has shown positional speed in some slightly better races and now cuts back. I could see this horse being in an okay spot and just sort of falling into, a 3rd or 4th place finish at a big price. So if you're looking for some under horses, for me, 6 and 10 there in race number 4 at Louisiana Downs. This one kicks off our pick 6 today. You can play for just a 20-cent base wager. It is a mandatory payout. It must go today. And there's $8,000 plus already carried over into it. So should be a nice pool. And with the 20-cent base, you can spread out a little bit and throw a couple extra price horses in there if you'd like. Don't throw the chalks in there. If you're going to throw a few extras in there, throw a few extra price horses in there.
He likes chalk.
Nah. Now we move along to the pick 5. There's a carryover just under 5,000 in the pick 5, and it's also a mandatory payout. This is a traditional pick 5, 50 cent, and it has a low 15% takeout. Barry, we have one of the things that I really got to enjoy this year about Louisiana Downs was this sort of level of claiming races on the grass, because there are a lot of horses that just sort of get they kind of get priced out based on where they are. Like sometimes they're a grass horse, but they're not quite as good as some of the other grass horses, or maybe at lower levels, they're not a dirt horse. I love when you can find tracks like this who have $5,000 and $7,500 like claiming races on the grass. You get horses that are good, that have had, nice careers, that are sort of horses that have some old back class. And we see that in a couple of these turf races throughout the sequence. This is a good field here. We have 11 horses lining up. More Ice is your 8-5 favorite on the outside. Talk to us a little bit about this group, Barry.
Well, yeah, this is a competitive group for the level. It's a $7,500 non-winners of 2, or never won 4, and not won 2 in 2022. Yeah, I mean, these horses are competitive. You see them coming from all different directions, different tracks. Some from Evangeline, some from Lone Star. So this should be a pretty good race. I felt that there was a lot of speed in here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can even go to the 10, Fort Ridge, who's shown speed. The 9, Megan's Lad, showed speed before, and probably wouldn't need to try to get some sort of position and
from
force
out there.
The issue. Yeah. The 6, that's Decat, has shown speed in the past. 2 Dot, the 5. So
stretching out.
Right, exactly. And I'm guessing that this pace is probably be a little bit heated. That being said, I ended up on number 2, Gobbler. I think this horse on the drop from a $12,500 non-winners of 2 this year into this spot makes a lot of sense. The Class of Relief will do this horse a lot of good. Running style is perfect. 4 wins on the turf, lifetime. Just coming into this race the right way, and I think this horse merits a big shot at a big price.
Picking Roses is one of the sharpest horses at the meet, and Picking Roses is running later in an allowance race. Picking Roses has won 3 in a row and put together like 6 good races at the meet over the last 5 months. So really, really good form.
Absolutely. And the 11, I'll just say one thing about More Ice. More Ice on paper probably will be and should be the favorite. I don't know if this is a discrepancy or not, but if you look in the daily racing form, the trainer Turf Sprints, they have this trainer who's a 21% trainer right now at the meet at 0 for 16 in turf sprints.
Just now, not quite been the bread and butter for Foster.
Right. Well, I say it might be a discrepancy because if you look at More Ice's May 16th race, he won at 7.5.
So
which is actually deemed a sprint rather than a route.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it's 2 turns, it's still the distance is the difference there. But I don't know how they evaluated that and getting that number.
And More Ice was funny. He was, he has back class. This was a horse who was out here in Southern California and was in, in stakes races. And that's what's great about racing. It's not all linear, right? Everyone's path is not the same to, getting into the winner's circle and to kind of finding their niche and where they belong. So Gobbler,
Picking Roses beat More Ice way back last year in July. But, even if that is a discrepancy with the stat, you can safely say that this isn't Joseph Foster's strong suit.
And for a short price.
Right. On the outside, short price, I got to try to play against. I mean, I don't recommend having a horse on your ticket for sanity purposes, just like a security blanket, because it's just going to drive up the cost when you can do other things. So I'm not going to use the 11 at all.
Sarah, let's get over to you. And then we're going to, after we hit Sarah, we're going to have a quick pop in from Ambassador Roxanne, who's out live at Louisiana. She wants to share a horse or two with us today, too. And she is looking very, very beautiful, as I can see her in the waiting room right there with a big smile. So she'll be popping in just a moment. Sarah, talk to us about race number 5. Who are some of the horses on your radar in here?
Yeah, so I agree with Barry. I do see some speed in this race, which Always is kind of a surprise when I look at turf racing now because I'm just so conditioned from watching all the New York turf races that I'm like, oh, horses might actually go and it might
Wow.
set up well for somebody else. It's wild. But the horse that I turned to was actually the number 4, Senator Khan. This is one that has been facing similar company to other horses in here. And I think this horse is going to get a pretty good stalking trip. Doesn't have to come from too far off the pace. Faced Reluctant Warrior in the last 2 outings for Reluctant Warrior. Had to wait kind of in behind horses last time they faced each
Mhm.
other, then rallied outside for 4th and lacked a little bit of punch in the lane, but did come back after that effort to win and got a much better trip in that race. And then I can just draw a line through the last effort because that was off the turf. This horse is obviously a better turf horse. And I think this one I don't know that we're getting 8-1, but I think this one is going to get a pretty sweet trip in behind some of those horses that do want to show more early speed in here. With the 11, I'm not quite as against as Barry is, but I do have some questions about that horse getting the right kind of setup in this race. However, when More Ice was at this level last time, that did result in a win. So I don't know that I would completely toss from my ticket, but the main play is going to be the number 4, Senator Khan in here.
Yep, Senator Khan with that toss last time out. And it's just about getting the right trip. For him, what's nice is he has some sort of positional speed to where he can kind of put himself in the race and maybe get the jump on some of the deeper closers too. So he could get a really nice trip in here, Sarah. I agree with you with Senator Khan. I wanted to mention a couple others because we all sort of are seeing the race shape out the same way, in that I'm not going to necessarily have the speed horses right on top. I'll probably use More Ice, but a couple that I will include are the 7 and the 8. Valentine Street, who hasn't won a whole lot lately, but if you dive into Valentine Street's races, he's 0 for his last 13, but 12 of them have been at tougher spots. And the only race that's in a comparable spot was on August the 2nd when he was behind Superwise and Space Mountain. And Superwise went wire to wire that day. He crossed the wire first. He got DQ'd at 10-1. I know because I had him and he got DQ'd and he shouldn't have been DQ'd. Phil, you know what I'm talking about. Phil Cleek, the owner of Superwise. And it's fun. Well, Phil and I are still bitter about that one, Phil. But Valentine Street just was in a race where there was no passing. There should be more passing in here. And right next door, Inca Warrior. You know, you just dive into him. He's a closer. So when he's in races where they're going slow early, you can just sort of eliminate them a little bit more. And he should get a better trip in here. So 7 and 8 will be some of the closers that I'm looking to, but we're all looking at this race similarly in that we're wanting horses from off the pace. So we'll dive into the pick 4 sequence in just 1 second. But first up, we want to welcome in Ambassador Roxanne Tanner from Louisiana. I have to say, Roxanne, thank you so much. You have been awesome this year. Roxanne is the person that I talk to all the time. She has to hear me asking annoying questions and dealing with stuff. And she's always been so great helping me out, giving me info from Louisiana. Roxanne, how you doing today?
I am good out here on the track here at LAD, watching some morning training. It's a gorgeous day out here today. Perfect for some horse racing.
And we have an awesome card lined up, 9 races, closing day, and you do a really great job. If anyone wants to follow you on social media at Ambassador Roxy, whenever you're watching races, you like to point out things that you see in the paddock. You were out at Louisiana in the paddock a whole lot. I've already been picking your brain and telling you next year you and I are going to do a preview show together on YouTube, and we're going to start to get some more of your opinion. So are there any thoughts you have on the card today, or any horses you're going to be playing?
For sure. It's definitely been a great meet here. You know, a lot of first time things going on here, trying to get Louisiana Downs back in the face of everybody, so that way they know we're a lot.
We were cutting in and out with you for a second. Can you hear us? We were losing you for a second. Roxanne, are you there?
I am.
Okay, cool. Now we can
the
hear you
good
better.
old Wi-Fi in Louisiana.
Oh, I know. Now we can hear you better. So all of the fields in the pick 6 today are 10 plus. We need your help. Maybe can you help us out with a race or two?
Frozen.
Uh-oh.
Technology.
I know we're trying.
So it's the worst, y'all.
There. Okay, now we can hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
see,
This is like that commercial. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Well, it actually answers my question about the weather. I was
connection.
wondering what it was going to be like down there today, and it looks like it's going to be nice.
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful. The sun is shining. Roxanne's out there checking in some morning workouts as we're just a couple hours away from post time at Louisiana. So let's try this one more time, Roxanne. We know you're at the mercy of the connections over there. Any thoughts on today that you want to share with us, or any must use horses in our sequence today?
I think Shane Wilson, I kind of like his little duo he's got in our 6th race, the baby race. I love me some baby racing.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the one horse, he's got the one hole first. But Calvin Burrell, I think that's an interesting angle there. He's had some decent works in the morning, and definitely one to take a look at in the paddock. I keep meaning to pick Connor's brain, and I always ask him whenever he brings a horse over to the paddock to school in the mornings. I'm like, what do we think, Connor? And he's like, I always give you a horse. He goes, and the horse I give you is always the horse that doesn't win, and the other one's the one that does win. And I'm like, okay. But, Shane's had a really good meet here this year. And so, he'll probably go out with a couple of winners today, just looking at the card.
So Shane, we're looking at race 6, the 1 and the 8. Shane Wilson has 2. And I do have to say a real quick tangent, as my significant other, my girlfriend Stephanie, is walking out the door right now. Today is her birthday. So I have to wish a very happy birthday. To my
Happy
love,
birthday.
Stephanie. She's got to go off and work today, but we'll be having some more birthday festivities late in
Who
the
works
week.
on their birthday? Come on, man.
I know. She's got to go.
Come on, Stephanie. What's up with that?
She works human resources, so she's
even worse.
She has to deal
Oh.
with people's problems all day
Right.
long too on her
Mm-mm.
birthday.
Oh, no
So
way. She
I
got
love you, babe.
Stay
Have a nice
home.
day. Have a nice day.
Gotta stay home.
I know. So she's off to work today. Shout out to my love, and we focus back over on Louisiana Downs and race number 6, and Roxanne. I think both of them are very live, and a belated happy birthday shout out to Connor Wilson, who you let me know was just his birthday a few days ago. Trainer Shane Wilson, who's the leading trainer, he has his sons that are part of the team, and they are all so hardworking, and they are just such a great operation. Like I'm always rooting for them, and they do such a great job out there, Roxanne.
Oh, for sure. And Shane's wife, Becky, also is very...
Uh-oh, we lost you again for a second.
goes over at
Bummer.
the tap yesterday and all that fun stuff. So great team.
Roxanne, we need to get you and me next year, YouTube show. We're doing it. We're going to talk to Kevin. We're going to make sure that we have a little preview show or a post show, and we're going to do it a couple times a week. I like what I've seen with Jason Beam and how him and Jessica Paquette do one over at Colonial. I think we can do something very similar to that. And I cannot thank you enough for all of the help you've given me. You are my eyes and my ears out there. You are so awesome. You become a very good friend. So thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for checking in with us, and I hope everything goes so well today.
Keep in touch.
Will do. That's Roxanne, and thank you so much. We were struggling a little bit with the connection there. We just wanted to pick her brain, and she was able to share a couple Wilson horses with us, and that was perfect because we're heading into the 6th race anyways right now, and we're about
Showing
to start
my
talking.
age here, but I'm surprised you didn't, put up rap Roxanne.
Oh, there. I was gonna say we've talked.
Or the police.
Oh, I was
Or the
gonna
police.
say. I know. I was gonna say. You're right. I probably got thrown off on the tangent when I was seeing Stephanie over there, and then it threw me off. I didn't want to sing for Roxanne when my significant other was right there. I was like,
not a good idea, bro.
At least not on her birthday. Maybe at least.
That even worse. You'd
I
be
know.
out in the street.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. So we get to race number 6. This one kicks off the pick 4. There's seeded money, extra money now in the pick 4 also, because there's a carryover from yesterday in the pick 4 of about $7,000. Sarah, we have 2-year-olds in here, and we have a couple Shane Wilson runners, as Roxanne just mentioned. We have one of them, Bello Credo, who was 3rd, but was well beaten. In the race that Bello Credo ran too, he got some money, and he was sitting in a nice spot, and he started to loom up, and he went up alongside this horse named Uncashed, who was like 15-1 and on the lead. and Uncashed just shrugged him off and just kicked on. It was really, really impressive. Brave Magic was also in that race. Talk to us about this one. Do you like Bello Credo? Will you be using him and some others? What's your approach in the 6th?
Bello Credo certainly is one that I want on my ticket, and I feel much more reassured after hearing Roxanne mention these connections, because I do like the one a little bit as well in here. I'm really against Brave Magic in this spot. I just keep seeing a horse that is taking a ton of money for connections that obviously we're all familiar with: Stone Street, Steve Asmussen, etc. But when you're the favorite and you keep finishing second, and there's newcomers into the race, there's other horses with experience, this horse is going to be a very short price. This is one that I'm tossing completely within my tickets. But Bello Credo in that race, first time out, room to improve, obviously, second time, and did show some early speed as well. Kind of was always in chase mode. Brave Magic was also in that race and did finish ahead of this horse. But if this horse takes a step forward versus one that's
Absolutely.
going to be a shorter price, that I think I've kind of seen enough to know who this horse is. Obviously, Brave Magic can win, but I wanted to go in a different direction in here. Bello Credo, just as you said, kind of loomed boldly and then kind of backed away. But I mean, maybe just got a little bit tired first time out, a little more foundation, little experience. This trainer obviously has really great stats with maiden second time starters, 33%. That's really promising to hear. But of course, I also had to consult my Horse Racing Nation first time power ratings. And the 1 is a 4 in this race, 5 being the best that you can be. So when I see that, I always want to take a little bit more of a look at horses that are prices that are higher rankings. So this one, 8-1 on the morning line. Not a ton of pedigree with really any of these debut runners, but the dam of this horse actually debuted against Songbird. So I thought that was kind of a fun fact to see.
And she was actually grade 1 placed too. She finished 3rd in the Starlet at Los Al. She was multiple graded. She finished behind Songbird. She ran behind her a couple times too. So, you know, she wasn't a win machine, but she wasn't bad. She had some ability.
Right. And I think wasn't bad is kind of going to be enough in spots
Absolutely.
like this as well.
This isn't a bad pedigree for this type of a spot in a race at Louisiana, like a 2-year-old son of Exaggerator out of a Sutton's Smile, like Patio Prado Dam. Yeah, that's like very, very solid here and enough to be, you know, included in some exotics. So I'm glad Roxanne mentioned that one. And you also seem to be pretty enthused by the Wilson runners in here. My man Sniper, who are we looking at?
Well, I agree with everything everyone said so far. I will be using the 1 on my ticket as well. That was actually the horse that caught my eye originally. You know, obviously the 1 spot. You look at that horse first. Has some decent works coming into this. There's no monsters in this field by any means. I know Brave Magic has the connection star power with, you know, Stone Street, Steve Asmussen, Joel Dominguez, but I'm gonna go against that horse. The horse I like the most, or I would deem my top pick, is the 7 Mysterious Spirit at 12-1. You know, a lot of times when horses, you know, debut, especially for a high percentage trainer, and they get bumped around a little bit, they usually need the experience and come back running better. Joseph Foster does really pretty good work with second time starters. I don't gather this one will be 12-1 come post time, but it, you know, obviously this horse is going to get bet a little bit, but the price should be right. I don't really like Bello Credo, although, you know, the horse has every right to improve, especially with you know, the way that horse has been working, but really didn't show much first time out. Got beat by Brave Magic, who I'm against in this spot. There's too many horses that you know, have a lot of upside in this race to just chalk out, you know. And if it does, that'll probably hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But you know, the other horse that I'm using is the 4 Golden Remedy, is another one that was bumped at the break.
So we're watching his race right here. He's the 2 in this race, and I agree with you. He's a horse who I like a little bit. You see, he gets kind of hit on both sides at the start.
Yeah, a little pinball action going on.
And so now he's sort of down in that tough spot there. What I like is he moves through the tight quarters on the rail, which is not easy for a 2-year-old to do first time out of the box. And he moves up nicely. He's right up into contention. He loses to your 4-5 favorite that day, Gallant Buck, who wins right on the lead. This is a horse who got some action in the debut. There's only 3-1. This is a horse who Carlos Lozada, your leading rider, sees fit to jump on now, and they add the blinkers here. Just like makeover package.
Yeah, a little
type
makeover
thing, right?
package. Yep, that's exactly it. And you know, you can almost see just watching that race. If you just locked your eyes on the two, you can almost see that horse learning.
Yep,
Absolutely. While they're racing. And you know, I expect a much better performance. I mean, I will lean heavily on the 4 and the 7 in this race, and you know, use the 1 and possibly the 3 as backups. I don't really like the 8 though.
Tarawa was a half to this one, a 7-time winner on the dirt too. So has the right to be decent with a nice multiple winning sib there. Golden Remedy, the 6th race, kicks off the pick 4, 50-cent pick 4, 15% low takeout. So make sure to get involved in the pick 6, pick 5, pick 4 as we turn the page to race number 7. And we go to a mile on the turf. This is the one that we took a peek at a little earlier on with Jake. And this race is very, very contentious. And what makes it really contentious is that one of the shorter prices draws the outside, which probably makes it a little bit tough for a horse like Fort Polk. Could get hooked a bit wide from out there. Fort Polk was a good second in the Louisiana Cup Distaff last time, but keep in mind, that was against Louisiana breds. This, while it's not a stakes race, is against open company. So sometimes it doesn't look like it's a step up, but it can be even facing tougher horses than in that Louisiana bred stakes. You can really just pick your poison here. I know for sure Eve's Delight is going to be on a lot of my tickets because she may be able to sneak away, stretching back out from 5. Her races going long here are really not bad. She was just behind Fort Polk and AG Charlotte, and she was in the distaff also. She kind of sat and moved, and she was not far off really fast fractions at Evangeline last time out. I think she's a little sneaky. Both the horses she came back have come back to win. She's live. You know, what's wrong with the 5 just passing through, whose last turf race was a very impressive win, earned a big speed figure, crushed a next out winner named Jubella. They'll probably be on a couple of my tickets. Racy JC's in awesome form, has won 4 in a row. Sarah, give us some of your thoughts on this race.
I love that you mentioned the 5 just passing through because it's actually my top pick in here.
Nice.
This poor horse has been rained off the turf 3 times in a row. And still, I mean, has won on the dirt before, so it's not as though that's the worst news on the planet. But if you get back to that turf race that you just mentioned, that 81 speed figure, I think that really would be very dominant and hard to get by in a field like this. The last race on the turf, would that figure a win? So as you mentioned, the horse that came back to win was second in there. I just think that this one at a price is going to be very competitive within this field. And then I do like the 1 as well, Racy JC. The short rest might be concerning to some, but she's done this before and she's been competitive against all sorts of different levels of competition. I mean, she just keeps winning and running her race. It doesn't matter if she's facing those $15,000 claimers, the $30,000,
it doesn't matter where either,
fields.
right? Lone Star, Louisiana, Remington. She just
wins.
Everywhere. Yeah.
So, I mean, how can you leave this one off your ticket with, it doesn't matter who she's facing, where it is, the distance, whatever's going on, she finds a way to get it done. So if this horse is anywhere near 4-1, which I don't know that she will be, and then you do get another half of the entry as well. Not a big fan of that one, but Racy JC, enough of a horse that I definitely want on my tickets in this spot. Fort Polk, contender, the outside post is a little concerning, and you're also getting 5-2. I get why this horse is the favorite, but I would probably lean more heavily on the 5 and the 1 in this spot.
Sarah's looking at a couple of prices, at least with just passing through, and the 1 is really sharp right now, in excellent form. Barry, talk to us about this 7th race.
We might have the name of the day with the 2. What are you gonna do, Karen?
What are you gonna do, Karen? Right? I know.
Yeah. I
felt when I've said this horse's name on the broadcast, like on May the 28th, I kind of said it in like a, "What are you gonna do, Karen?"
What are you gonna do, Karen?
You know, I felt like I sort of had to. You know.
I actually like that horse. You know, in this spot, I think being on the inside is really going to be a good advantage for that horse to run well. Definitely using that horse on my tickets, although not my top choice, but definitely going to use that one. I didn't like the 1 at all, either one of them. I just want no part of them. The 5 was a horse I took a long look at, and I really didn't know what to make of that horse. And I have a funny feeling that this horse is going to get bet a lot, more than half the odds. So the morning line is 12-1. I'm thinking this horse is probably going to be around 4 or 5-1 once everything's said and done, especially with the connections, getting top rider, top trainer, and all the other things combined. The form is a little muddied up too, and I think some people are going to try to hone in on that and try to get a price. If that horse is over 5-1, I think might be a decent play here. AG Charlotte is the one that I would deem my top pick, so I'm in agreement with Jake
Yeah.
from State Farm. This horse likes the turf. Ran 2 pretty bang up races. Actually 3. I mean, it was kind of compromised and in between horses most of the way on August 6th, but still ran pretty decent. A credible race in a stake race, a state bred stake. So should benefit from that trip. I just don't want any chalk. I don't want the 10, and I didn't want the 1. So that's what we're going with here. Beyond those 3 that I mentioned, the 7, the 2, and the 5, I really don't want too many others.
It's that fun type of a turf
Well,
race where
one more. I forgot. Miss Perfecta, the 6.
yeah,
Sorry.
she fits.
We're going 4 deep here, basically.
She fits well, and it's that type of a fun race where take your stand, have an opinion. There are probably going to be a bunch of 5-1 shots in this race. It feels like that, and so I love getting the difference of opinions and being able to pick everyone's brain in a really wide open competitive race like this. Let's move along to race number 8. 2 more races on the card. Again, a big thank you to Sarah and to Barry for hanging out on this Tuesday morning. Remember, there's an early post today because we have 9 races started. It's going to be 1:45 Eastern time today for first post, 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, 12:45 Central time. And there's 9 races that run today, 2 extra than normal. It's normally just 7 race cards at Louisiana. We move into the 8th race. Barry, why don't you start us off here? 7,500 non-winners of 2. We peaked at this one before where Jake thought Market Book was a horse that was kind of a standout. Do you look at Market Book as a player? Are you looking at others in here? Talk to us about the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, Market Book definitely is the horse to beat here. And it's tough. It's weird when you get a trainer like Steve Asmussen who, won a billion races, shows up in Louisiana closing day in a $7,500.
I know, right? All levels of the spectrum. You know?
I mean, he really throws all kinds of horses out everywhere on every surface. Just doesn't matter. But I think this one is well meant. If there is a single in this sequence, pick 4, pick 5, pick 6, it would be Market Book. Detective Bernardo looks pretty good, especially after the last win.
Shout out to Gillespie over at Gillespie.
Yeah, Gillespie Downs getting a little action in the racing form. And then the third horse, I kind of liked a little bit. It was Big Sessie, the 6. I was really, trying to hone in on playing some verticals in this race in particular because the 5 looks pretty strong, and there's some possibility for some chaos behind him. So.
And maybe one of your approaches, you single
like
one, and then maybe one you go, because you're playing pick 4, pick 5, pick 6. Maybe one of them you could single that horse, and one you can open up a little bit, maybe give yourself an opportunity for some chaos. Is you thinking an approach like that?
Yeah, because these are inexpensive claimers. I mean, they're not the most consistent. If they were, they wouldn't be in a race like this.
They've had some issues along the way. Mm-hmm.
Whether it's injuries or bad luck, all kinds of stuff. You could even give a shot to a horse like Lucky Break, who hasn't been running bad, showed some speed, but there's a scenario here because the horse has run fast enough to win this race in the past where this horse could go to the lead and not look back. So, consistency wise, Market Book is your horse.
Race number 8, Sarah, is the second to last leg of the sequence, and it's the start of the late daily double. What's your ticket going to look like? Who are some of the horses that you need to use in exotics here?
So I don't really trust Market Book in this spot. I know that this is going to be everybody's
I
single,
kind
but
of
this,
agree. I kind of
yeah.
agree. I do.
So I'm not using this horse. This horse should have won a couple of times over, and this horse only has the maiden win. They tried a couple of different spots early on, and once you get horses for trainers like this that just haven't been winning, and they really need to drop down to the lowest level to get it done, I just don't think this horse is that good. Now, I don't know that the rest of this field is that good either, and so that's why I get why people might gravitate towards a
Yeah.
horse like Market Book, who might just be the best horse in the race, but this horse just keeps not getting it done. I kind of like the other Asmussen horse in here more than Play, coming off a little bit of a freshening. This horse is very lightly raced, only making the 4th career start, dropping in class. Asmussen's 22% off a 61 to 180-day layoff. I just kind of thought this horse might be a funky long shot that you want to throw in.
He might
I know that-
appreciate 5 really too, right? If they just gun him on the cutback because he won at 5, and it just might be that he's just really speedy and doesn't have a whole lot of stick.
And maybe he just stops, but it's enough that he gets
Yeah.
to the wire first. I don't totally agree with Jake about looking good so far. I actually, if you look at this jockey trainer combo, they don't have a very high percentage together, which is kind of surprising for a trainer like Carl Broberg, who does win at a very high percent. But this one ships in from Prairie Meadows, and I just see that the 5 furlong races, those figures are considerably better than the other distances that this horse has tried. So this might be another type that is just really fast
I think
early
you're
and
right
kind of
too.
stops.
At
So
5 might be the key for a couple of these horses, right? Just
yes,
not having to get to the 5.5 or 6 furlong marker. So there will be a few of the speedies that I'm going to throw in. I'm okay with the 9 also, as you are, Sarah, and I'm okay with the 4 as you are. This is the horse that I'm going to throw in that might be kind of a sneaky horse in this particular race. Price is Right. Come on down, baby. Price Right will also get Carlos Lozada for the first time. So Price Right in this race that we're watching is the number 7. And a big shout out to Daily Racing Form. Whenever we're doing our live streams here, I always pull up the Daily Racing Form past performances, because for me, I'm using Formulator, 1 click like this to the replays, 1 click to the charts, 1 click to the pedigree information. We're watching the 7 here, Priced Right, and he has a good start, but he can't really clear because the 6 is right there with him, and then a couple other horses shoot up the inside. When you're playing a speed horse, you always want to see if they can clear. But now Price Right is in a tough spot because he's going to end up getting pushed wide. Watch when the 4 goes in between. Now he's really way out wide, and he's still trying to come on, even way out in the middle of the racetrack. He actually gets all the way up to 2nd, but the 4 kind of makes that move and really just steals the race with that middle move, and everybody else is kind of lined up running for 2nd because that was just a very heady ride aboard Bodie. When I see horses like this who have flashed ability, but maybe were like slightly off with the speed or sitting, and then you get a jockey like Carlos Lozada who jumps aboard, maybe he can just make a small little adjustment to Price Right to let this horse sit just to the outside, because he's gonna be cutting back from 6 furlong races now to 5 furlongs. So Price Right, 3rd start off the forms, 3rd start off the layoff, 3rd start of the form cycle. I think he can sit pretty well there from the outside. So that's race number 8. One more that remains, race number 9. Let's turn the page to the 9th and final. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today, and I hope everyone gets involved a little later on in the pick 6, pick 5, and pick 4 at Louisiana. Sarah, before we finish up here with this 9th race, talk to us a little bit about Horse Racing Nation. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you're doing. I know you mentioned Assiniboia Downs. You're working on stuff there. What do you have coming up? What, Santa Anita and then Keeneland coming soon? Will those be tracks you'll be looking at? Talk to us about your work right now.
Yeah, it's getting a little crazy busy with Breeders' Cup coming up. We have a lot of products that we're working on to gear up towards that. We're going to release a Breeders' Cup kind of exclusive package for our products. So people that are really only interested in the Breeders' Cup races, they get some of our insight and data to look at just those races. So that'll be kind of a bundled deal that we have that's going to be coming out. Ed and I are going to talk about the mandatory payouts at Assiniboia for tomorrow night, since they have their closing day coming up as well. I have a Woodward preview day.
So that's Wednesday,
video
right?
that's
Their
gonna be
closing day
coming
is
out.
Wednesday at
What's
Assiniboia.
that?
Assiniboia closing day is Wednesday, tomorrow.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
As
Awesome.
far as I know.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, and Sarah, you're someone that we see doing a lot of stable duel stuff. You were helping with a lot of the stable duel live streams, the Assiniboia. You are just someone who you love to talk racing. You're very, very sharp. You're very knowledgeable. And it's really nice to see your face all over and to hear your voice all over. You've done such a great job. And I always appreciate when you take a few minutes out of your busy schedule to help us out.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, yeah, I would talk to a hole in the wall about racing. So it's nice to talk to real people that can offer some insight as well, because I think we always all learn from each other. And I've learned plenty from both you and Barry, as well as plenty of other people online and that I work with and that I get to talk to within the industry. So always means a lot to come on and just chat about racing, because I think no matter what you have going on in your life, if you sit down and talk about the thing that you love with somebody else, you're always going to get something out of it. So that's how I feel about getting to have these conversations. It's always a privilege.
The thing that I love about talking races with anyone is it doesn't matter where you came from, what you look like, how old or young you are. All that matters is what you bring to the table to talk about, right? The conversation. It's like when you're a fan of a sports team, you know, you can be from a different generation, and it's just sort of like something that brings you together. Right here, we have people that came from way different backgrounds, who don't look anything alike, who don't sound anything alike, but we all love horse racing and we love to talk. And that's what I like. I like getting a diverse opinion from people who are all over the place, because that's how you learn. That's how I learn, is hearing from Sarah, who looks at the racing form and the races way different than I do. And then I see something that you say and I go, okay, I'm going to add that to my repertoire. That's something I like. I'm going to use that one next time. Every week I'm picking up things from Barry. I'm like a sponge listening to Barry and Matt DeSantis when we're talking. So it's so nice to be able to converse with your friends like this, and always be a sponge. Always try to learn. You can learn something from everyone, whether it be a positive or a negative. Maybe it's something that you say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. I'll go in a different direction next time. We close it out, Sarah, with a 1.5 mile race at Louisiana. So say goodbye to the meet with a 1.5 mile here. If you are alive going into race number 9, who are some of the horses you want in your tickets in pick 4s, pick 5s, or pick 6s?
If I'm live going into the last race and I've successfully gotten around horses like Market Book and that other 2-year-old favorite that Steve's going to have as well, I want a little more coverage in here. So I think that this race is wide open, because when you have horses that are going 1.5 miles on the turf, a lot can happen. And I also wanted to include one that does have that 1.5 mile experience, because almost none of them do.
Yep.
And that's going to be the 5 Uncle Artie for Carl Broberg. Is kind of a shorter price, 3-1 on the morning line, but one last time out, has that prior experience going the distance and did finish 4th that day. So I don't feel like this horse absolutely can't be competitive at a distance like this. I did want to go with the entry. Picking Roses is a horse that we talked about earlier as just being in such great form right now and getting the wins. I did want to use Mau Mau, the number 10 on the outside, who actually, fun fact, is a half to Olympiad. So I feel as though this horse could get the distance.
He just feels like one that you want to just see going longer, right? Yeah, like just give him a shot to go longer like this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I wanted to use the number 4, the Green Moster, the number 9, Chaos Mo. So I would go pretty deep in this race, just because not a lot of them have the 1.5 mile experience. The other horse that does have it was Space Mountain, and just really didn't do that well. So
yeah, he doesn't seem to like it.
No, I would toss that one.
I agree. Like, he has the 1.5 mile experience, but he seems like he's a little bit better at 1 mile to like 1 1/8. It seems like he gets a little flat when they go longer like that. Barry, what do you want to have in your 9th race coverage if you can get to the 9th race?
There's only 2 horses here, and one of them is probably, from what I gathered, I mean, this is my own kind of research, that Picking Roses is probably the best turf horse on the grounds.
Pretty close right now.
Fair.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't really see any horses there that are better than this one. Just as many times, you know, over the last couple of weeks I've been playing Louisiana Downs, I see this horse's name come up an awful lot.
And the form, and they're all coming back and running well.
Right. I estimate that that's the best turf horse on the grounds.
He's
Whether
a
he can
great
get
measuring stick right now at the top, the
right,
tip top. You're right.
whether he can get the 1.5 miles or not remains to be seen. But he could win this, kind of like a war of attrition, and just just because he's just a little bit better than everybody else, he could still win. The other horse I keyed in on was Mau Mau, the 10, like you said, half the Olympiad. Probably wants more distance, and this is a good spot for him. Space Mountain I kind of threw out because I don't like Steve Asmussen's numbers on turf. He doesn't win a whole heck of a lot of turf races. Although he runs quite a bit, he doesn't win a whole lot. I think that horse is kind of an underneath play. I know Space Mountain was good back in the day, running at Gulfstream and stuff like that. But a shell of his former self, and I'm just going to be against him on later on.
I've had 2 horses throughout the meet. It's funny. I've had a lot of good days. We all have, but the ones that you always remember are the horses like Super Wise who win at 9-1 and then get DQ'd, right? And then I had another one, Noka Oi, on I think Sunday was 13-1, won going away, but like shifted in because the horse had so much momentum coming from the back and bumped the rival, and they had to bring the horse down. And I'm sitting there watching it like, this horse is going to come down at 13-1. I know it. And
But it's funny you say that, because in the prior race, in the 8th race, that horse that I mentioned, Big Sessi, that actually kind of happened to that horse. Was DQ'd, and probably shouldn't be eligible for that race. I
Yep.
mean, he's won twice already. So it's just one of those weird things that you can pick up just by paying attention.
So I'm throwing the 6 in just in case this horse gets out front. Now, because Sarah mentioned a great point, because a lot of these horses don't have 1.5 mile experience, we might just see a lot of them like more forwardly placed. So there may not be one necessarily runoff speed horse. There might be like a clump of horses, 3 or 4 kind of loping along. But if Lozada decides to get aggressive, because when they got aggressive on August 2nd, he went wire to wire. And what's funny is when you read the chart of the race when he got DQ'd, Super Wise set the pace on the inside, dawdled along, was challenged from the inside, leaving the turn. Space Mountain tried to come through a hole that was not there. So the chart caller disagreed with the stewards. So Phil and I have been talking about this too. We're like, they didn't even say that in the chart that the horse got in a spot. So I actually think there may be a version of this race where they get aggressive with Super Wise. They try to get a length or 2 lead on this field. And I want to make sure he's on my ticket just in case. And Sarah, you hit Uncle Artie also. What I loved about Uncle Artie in his last race too, he showed a lot more positional speed. And I think it was because it was at a lower level. So they just said, hey, he's the best horse in here. Like, let's not try to sit way back and get caught in traffic. And if they can just place him nicely again, going 1.5 miles, I think he'll be pretty tough in here. So I'll throw in Super Wise along with Uncle Artie, and then the very strong entry that we were talking about with Pickin' Roses and Wins Tea Time, who have been really, really good for the Justin Janson barn. So Louisiana Downs closing day coming up just a little bit later on. Can't thank Sarah and Barry enough for taking time out of their Tuesday mornings to come and hang out with us. Sarah, we're looking at your Twitter handle right there, right? Outrun the Odds. That's where we give you a follow. And you, for the most part, post a lot of your content, everything Horse Racing Nation and stuff on Twitter. That's where we can get everything, Sarah.
That is where I'm the most obnoxious online. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you again so much. You do a fantastic job. And you are definitely someone that if I'm not playing the races, or if I haven't had time to look and I see that you have an opinion, I would blindly go include that horse or throw a few bucks on it. And I would tell other people the same thing. So you are someone who I know puts in the work, and you do a great job. Thank you again so much for helping out.
Thanks, Gino. That means a lot coming from you. And I feel the same way about both of you. I always take a closer look at which horses you come up with, because I know that the process is absolutely there and you've done your homework, and the wheels are turning in your brains instead of some that just kind of like, oh, the favorite. I don't know. So I know that you put in the time, the energy, and the effort.
My man, Barry, thank you. We were hanging out on Friday. We'll be back again Friday morning with Matt
yeah.
for this weekend in Stable Duel. Santa Anita opens up this weekend, so we'll have
Yeah,
some.
where is Matt? Is he working?
Yeah, Matt is. It's like
Who
real
works?
job.
Who does that?
Real. I was gonna say real
Who the hell
job.
does that?
Seriously.
I have a real
but
job. You guys
yeah,
have real jobs.
we're
here.
gonna work
I
on
mean,
getting Matt
I
a
wouldn't
real
say that.
job in horse racing, and Barry. That's what I want to make sure that two of my friends get some real jobs in racing where they can get a little more money and paid for the excellent work that they do.
Right?
So that's
I gotta get out to California to hang out with Milo.
Oh, I know, man. We just started soccer this weekend.
I
So
saw
now
that. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Saturday mornings we'll have soccer moving forward, and
We gotta
Saturday
get you
morning.
to coach. That's
Yeah,
what
oh,
we need to see. So you
I
can
was,
sing and dance and yell
I was gonna
all
say
at the same time.
when I actually, one of my favorite things I ever did was coaching soccer when I was
Nice.
I was 16 years old, and I was playing soccer in high school, and one of my friends, his dad was the commissioner of a league that didn't have a bunch of coaches. They needed like 3 or 4 extra coaches, and they came to some of us that were like 16, 17, 18. They said, "Hey, can you guys coach a team for us? We'll help you out. You can get all your service hours and stuff done that you need for school." And we said, "Yeah, sure." So there were 3 of us that showed up. And after the second week, I'm the only one that's showing up
You're
anymore.
the only one left.
And so then I took it, like I just took it and ran with it, and I absolutely loved it. And then I coached for 5 years. I went and got certified. I coached club soccer, and it was like some of the greatest experiences in my life were Saturday mornings at the park with the kids having a blast. So that's a podcast and a stream for another day, because we would sit here for hours and talk about that. Sarah, you have a fantastic Tuesday. I'm going to be checking in on your stuff tomorrow for Assiniboia Downs and see some of your thoughts there. Barry, my man, have a fantastic rest of your day. Good luck in all your wagers. You and I will be back on Friday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, right here. And if you follow at Stable Duel, good luck, everyone, in all your plays today. And on the way out, let's hear Joey rocking it out
Cleveland
on the guitar one more time. Here you go, Joey. It's your time to shine.